Islam, peace, Hotep, greetings, blessed love. What's good? We're here, the 3rd of June. Year's going. The year is flying. 6 months in. Today's class, the art of denationalization. Before we start, you already know we gotta give honors to all the Moors worldwide. Islam to you for being studious. To all the Moors who know Moors that are in those concentration camps, death camps, so-called penitentiary, detained, arrested, alleged charges, legit charges. Stay strong up in there, because it's a battle out here, right? So Islam to those Moors as well. All the new Moors coming in, because they're getting calls, but it's on Moors. When Drew Ali told the Moors that you're going to need 16 secretaries, right? Knew what he was talking about, right? Moors that are out there. People are waking up at an alarming rate, just like the time when Drew Ali was around, right? Why? Because every Moor that's active that you see speaking for the Prophet in his favor or whatever, all those Moors were with the Prophet when the Prophet was around. And Moors had to come back because, right, we already know, we've been denationalized. How did we become denationalized? Oh, well, slavery and the European. No, sorry, don't blame the European. Don't blame the European. We already told y'all that in the class before. So don't get mad at the European. Get mad at yourself. Why? Because our own black leaders solo. It's our own black kings of and queens of and whatever that sold out. Right? Sold out the people. Because they want them to be something that they coined. Right? We coined this term. So, forget what that guy said called Noble Drew Ali. Call yourself what we say that you are. Right? Where does that get you? Right? And then Noble Drew Ali told the Moors, what's his nationality? Moorish American. What's your nationality? Moorish American. Okay? Which is really Moroccan American, which is really Moroccan, which is really just Moroccan. Right? So he laid out all these things for the Moors, and these chumps, these punks, dropped the ball, as usual. So the Moors are back, right? You were talking about the World Cup thing?
Oh, yeah. Mario Balotelli. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, the World Cup.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, the Moors are back.
We're back.
Right? The number one soccer player on the Italian World Cup soccer team.
Striker.
Brother. Moor. Right? So the Moors are back.
Super Mario.
Super Mario.
His name's Mario, right? So, like the video game.
Yeah.
People call it Super Mario.
Right?
Superman business.
Okay? Right, and we already know Superman was an L. So don't even get it twisted. All right. So we'll start off with the readings. Since we already know that we've been denationalized, right? Let's go back to what Noble Drew Ali said before the denationalization really kicked off. And base our perspective of who we are and why we're in the state that we're in on what he's putting out. Forget what everybody else said about how come we're in this situation, right? I hereby inform all members that they must put an end to all radical and agitating speeches while on their jobs, homes, or on the public streets. We advocate peace and not destruction. Stop trying out your cards with the Europeans, for it causes confusion. There has been much confusion caused by members trying out their cards. The cards are for your salvation. Failure of obeying my orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members that seek to hold malicious feelings toward the temple or the prophet, or to violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors must obey the laws laid down to them by their prophet. Push that. Record on that. Yeah, right there, that red button. Yeah.
This red button
Yeah,
is
yeah.
back there? Okay.
Any member or group of members that seek to hold malicious feelings toward the temple or the prophet, or to violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors must obey the laws laid down to them by their prophet, and if they lose confidence in their prophet, give up your card and button, cease wearing your turban or fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. For this is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Noble Drew Ali. And if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet is sending out a divine plea to all true Moorish Americans, right? That's the Moorish Americans, that they may do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Noble Drew Ali. And then he said, Islam. I am glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me and the movement by now, by the same people on our side of the nation that claim it was only a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from the government officials and nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme they can to disqualify me so they themselves may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that paid their divine respect to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I am calling upon all faithful Moors, to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works, which I have performed in the last few years. Right? And then a few months after that, Prophet gets assassinated. And then all this black stuff starts flooding the infrastructure.
Yeah.
Right? Claiming that, we want to be respected and we want whatever, capitalized stuff, and we want to vote and, fountain stuff and all these things.
Ride the bus.
Right, bus riding, right? You just go in some block, you just walk over there, right? So, taking this subordinate position, which is the art of denationalization, getting you to do it yourself. So nobody can be blamed for committing an international war crime against you. And then this is why the Moors need unity. On the level of, not that the Moors aren't united that we need unity, right? But that Noble Drew Ali told the Moors, increase your faithfulness. If you're true, faithful Moor, then increase your faithfulness. Now, if you aren't putting your trust in the prophet, what he laid down, then anything that you're doing is for naught. Because first thing is, what's your nationality? And you start making up stuff. When your nationality is Moorish American, Noble Drew Ali came here in 1913, told all these people, laid it all out for everybody, right? And they're going to play games with it, right? So you're going to make sure that you take Noble Drew Ali serious for people who are, you know what I mean, coming into this movement and thinking that it's about um, the right to travel and not paying taxes and I had this situation. I know that you guys do the paper that you send to the court. Can I get the paper so I can send it and whatever stuff like that, right? Those activities, people looking at this from that perspective shows that they have a denationalized mindset, right? It's like we had some people send some questions, right? So the email address canaanlandguide@gmail.com, right? canaanlandguide@gmail.com. You got questions, because I check that more than I go to the temple and check the temple voicemail. So if you want any questions answered or forward you to some people or whatever, there's an email address, send an email, right? And so a brother sent a question, right? Just because we're talking about, it's relative in respect to what we're talking about. Besides Zodiac Constitution, are there any other laws that Moors would be subject to?
Okay.
Right? The position that our people take from having a denationalized mindset of thinking that they don't have authority, thinking that the only way they're going to get authority is if A, B, C, D, E, F, G, down to Z, put something on their paper or says, oh yeah, you know, dismissed or whatever, right? Is how they get the authority. When that's not what the perspective is. This is your, Noble Drew Ali told you, right? He's your prophet, and this is your divine Moorish movement, right? And then in the divine warning to the nations, he said that the only way that the people are going to be saved is being connected to the Moorish divine national movement, right? So he's telling you where the salvation is, okay? So when we say, you know, what laws are the Moors governed under as Moors, right? We're the law. That's why I self-law am master. The law is not something written where we're going to go read and then, oh, because it says that there, now with it.
I got to do this.
Right. We wrote those stuff. That's not something, some book or whatever. That's some tablet that they got from us that they put into book form.
Yeah.
Right? So when we say, you know, you're not Negro, black, colored, you're Moors, proclaim your nationality. Proclaim is like, it's not just some paper filing or whatever. Proclaim is connecting you being that is manifested in flesh, right? Because it's not like we're from here, right? Like we're here.
Spiritual beings having physical
experience. We're
just
here
for
time, learn your whatever.
In
you know
between
what I mean?
time. You
Parole,
never know.
what is it? Parole or dead time or life, whatever.
Whatever. Yeah.
Right? The fallen angels were sent here, and that's us. And then, because we're on our lower self, that's why we're sent here, to raise ourselves back up, right? So Juali said, okay, this is how you're gonna raise yourself back up, by having some authority and not being subject to something or someone, right? So, I self law and master is the law that Moors are governed under. Because I self law and master is nature's law and divine law. There ain't nothing higher than that. And no paper could trump that. Right? That's why Moors are scientists. That's why Noble Drew Ali was Professor Drew, the Egyptian adept. Right? Because we have a bigger stake in this than people recognize.
Yeah.
Because it's our authority. And everybody is praying that we denationalize. Because denationalization is really putting yourself in slavery.
Yeah. So they can have,
which is voluntary. Because, slavery's been abolished. Involuntary slavery. But voluntary slavery is legal. They can't abolish that because involuntary slavery is on the slave or the person who's in that subordinate position.
Yeah.
Right?
It's true.
So
One thing for someone to put
Islam.
Another thing for me to put myself in that.
Right. Okay. So with the denationalized mindset, and it's a theme that Noble Drew Ali told the Moors, right? That you're going to be saved in a conflict that you can't even put it into words how you're going to be saved. Because if I tell you everything, you're going to go back to sleep.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you some things that'll turn your brain to water. So, like, if people want to think that he's a joke, when those things that he said are real, right? Just like the prophecies, right? Islam to Rami Salam El as well, that did a good presentation on Sunday, right? Dealing with this exact same thing, the prophecies, right? So, 236. The Holy Prophet said, I am the fifth and last prophet, and I am 5 times more powerful than I was before. Okay? So, if he's saying that he's the 5th prophet, and then Islam is ISLAM, and then love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and then 5 points on the star, and this theme, right? That means that it's legit. Because there's things that there's no contradictions. Because everything backs up everything that he says. Whereas with other people, we study them and what they brought, and you always get to a dead end.
Yeah.
It's not a cycle. It's not a circle. It's a line. Right. So Drew Ali brought us into a spherical or a circular or you know what I mean, as above, so below. What goes around comes around mindset. So things could be so the wheel could start turning, so we can get some momentum. Right. 5th and last prophet. Right. So there ain't no more coming.
5th and last.
He's the 5th and last prophet. So there's not any more prophets coming. No other prophet said that they're the 5th and last or 3rd and last or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? And half of those people that people claim to be prophets, they didn't say so themselves. People put prophet on them. He's telling you himself that I'm the 5th and last one. Right? The Holy Prophet said, one day, all the property is going back to the government. It's going on right now. Like right now, that's going on. Right? when they say kick the door in, take that baby out, that's property going back to the government. Because that child has a birth certificate that mom listened to preacher guy and whoever else, right? Black leaders, that's the protocol, right? Which leads to the other question that the brother asked. Somebody else asked about I didn't write this one down, excuse me. How do I obtain my certificate of natural live birth? Right? So the concept is, well, the birth certificate was created, but there was something that was used for them to create the birth certificate. The thing that was used was the live birth record. Okay? And then remember, we're talking about the art of denationalization, right? So the whole concept of birth certificates and statement of live birth and going in that direction is sovereign European hillbilly guys. That's what that is.
Yeah.
That doesn't have anything to do with our demonstration. Because to Moors, birth certificate's void ab initio. It's void from its inception. So there's no need to even put your mind there. And if that instrument's void, and they're claiming that they have a statement of live birth, right? Since the birth certificate's void ab initio, why would you want to go claim a statement of live birth when you're adult? And that has to do with a child. What purpose is having that in your possession?
Well, how does that? Yeah. What does that do?
Gonna do?
What does it do for
Because
you?
remember, the birth certificate is void ab initio. So anything that they do with regard to that discharge and all that crap, right, is under a fraudulent jurisdiction called U.S. So it has no power, it has no substance, it's dead. Right? So being that it's dead, and being that the child who that statement of live birth came from is an adult now, forget the statement of live birth, proclaim your nationality. Like what Noble Drew Ali said to do. Right?
Going and getting that.
Now if we read through some of the stuff and we hear Noble Drew Ali say the birth certificate and you should get statement of live birth and whatever, okay, cool. Because this is the prophet talking. So he's saying certain things and leaving certain things out because it's nothing to consider. If you do consider it, don't get mad when you get lost and you're into some oblivion and then you lose your house or something because you're following some guys that said they did some process.
Yeah.
Right? Because a true Moorish leader, which everybody who proclaims their nationality is, must study their Holy Quran and their divine constitution and bylaws. That's protocol. And majority of people, you ask them, they don't even have a divine constitution and bylaws. But then, we're going to ask the questions about, what laws are Moors governed under, right? When, the laws that Moors are governed under, as far as what's written, is in order for us to keep a square character. So you don't be loose. Because as a Moor, they're not going after some straw if you go shoot somebody. If you just get fly off the handle just because, well, I'm a Moor, so I kill this guy. Right? Now you're being dealt with as a real individual, a real citizen. You're not being dealt with as a straw. So there's no slip-ups now. This is the real game now. This is not practice anymore. Right? And all we've been doing is practicing. The Negro, black, whatever. Practice. Practice. That's all. Getting on nationality and birthrights, or getting out of that denationalized position that we put ourselves in, right? Because we followed these idiots who decided to take checks, take yellow envelopes and all that type of stuff, pretend like, you know what I mean? It's cool to be black and Negro and colored and all that. When that's a fraud, they know it's a fraud too. It's not that they don't know. They know it's a fraud.
You know, it's one thing if someone just genuinely does not know, not aware. It's another thing if they know and they're just kind of using it to their.
Right. Which, again, deal with, you know, nationality birthrights, what Noble Drew Ali taught, what he directed the Moors to do, right? We're gonna put something on the record right now, also. You see this TMZ thing that went down, right? Forget TMZ. TMZ is not even.
Not the issue.
That's not the issue. The issue is that the Moorish Divine and National Movement was broadcasted internationally. Right?
We're getting out there now.
Broadcasted internationally. Right? Noble Drew Ali told the Moors, the Europeans going to tell the truth. Right? They weren't lying. They did more than Negro, black, colored people did. That's not even their birthright.
Yeah.
They claimed the Moors' birthright to tell the unconscious Moors that, hey, you know, you're Moors. This sister right here, right, quote unquote, ex-wife of Deion Sanders, who everybody knows in the entire world.
He knows who Deion Sanders.
Everybody knows who he is.
Yeah, you know prime time.
You know prime time.
Deion Sanders,
right? Everybody knows him.
Sports
right? And ever since he divorced this sister, you never heard anything from her. Nobody's covering nothing. Nobody said, hey, let's just knock her door, see, like, how come you just disappeared? Yeah. Like, why are you just off the grid right now? And certain people are still on the grid, right? Like, how come? And then, however long it is, and then first thing that you hear is, oh yeah, she filed some paperwork because of her divorce, you know, prenup or whatever, proclaiming her nationality through Moorish Divine National Movement, you know, and right? So they didn't say that it was wrong. Right? They didn't say that it was wrong.
They didn't mock it or
right? They made a mockery of it.
They did say that it was some obscure filing under a Moorish thing, and
right.
It said then it also claimed that it didn't work. Not to say anything to that.
And it's an obscure filing, right? Because
the works of the people previous to that.
Previous. Right? So you have a prominent individual, right? Saying, forget the prominent whatever. Forget the fiat and the house and the whatever like that. Nationality is the order of the day. Proclaim my nationality. Right? And on top of that, right? She's on it harder than some people who say that they're Moors have been on this 15 years. And then we could say that because we already talked to the sister. Just so everybody knows. All those people out there, crazy people, right, that don't want to get down on birthrights, right? When she linked us, she already had nationality card, paperwork certain. Already sent out to whoever, right? And studying. No different than the other brother, right? NFL brother that called, right? Ex-NFL,
NFL brother,
right? Yeah, retired, right? So nothing to do but put your feet up or whatever, and you know what I mean?
You have the fiat, you have the house, you can relax.
Just chilling, you know what I mean? Enjoying retirement with my family.
Yeah, you got free time.
Right? Okay, free time? You're not free time with playing golf and stupid stuff like that. You're studying. You got nationality and birthrights. Going to the temple, classes. This is a man who played on the field watching Sunday game, Monday night
Yeah,
football, whatever
them
else.
one there,
Okay,
yeah.
somebody who was on those. Not a nobody
Not a
necessarily,
no, yeah, but
right? Somebody who was on those shows that we sat down and watched them, bet money and all that type of stuff, pro line, whatever. Right? They're on some nationality and birthrights. Saying, you know what, forget it. It's not about there's something else going on right here. Because, I used to play and I had the all caps on my back for years. And only when I got this information, I'm like, hold on a second.
yeah, trust me, yeah. Your jersey all.
you
Who owns you? Who are
know,
you?
and you go check all the checks that you got or whatever, and hold on a second.
Corporation checks.
Corporation checks. That wasn't my stuff.
Corporation
No wonder
checks.
they could do blah blah blah, and they have the little rules regulation book, it's like this big or whatever like that,
Can't do this, can't
and
do
you
that,
can't do this, can't do that, and everybody goes, I mean, that's just the rules, but no, that's slavery. Part of denationalization. That they got the all caps on their jersey back, and they don't even, they're oblivious. But now that certain people want to put out mockery of the Moors and prominent people proclaiming their nationality, right? What's that doing? That's allowing these people now who are Negro, black, colored people labeled, right? That at first, same thing, following the European, denouncing U.S. citizenship and stupidness like that, right? Asiatics doing that, right? When that's a European protocol.
Yeah, protocol.
That's not Asiatic protocol. This is our land. We don't need to denounce nothing. We have nothing to do with the U.S. The Europeans that were the ones that were brought into that fraud. We have nothing to do with it. We volunteered ourselves by wanting to drink from their fountain that they put there. Wanting to sit on, I want to sit in front of the bus and whatever, right? Capitalized stuff. Have them assist in organizations that we're trying to build for ourselves. We have Jews funding.
Yeah. You always get money from somewhere.
Right? Always getting money from somewhere. You know what I mean? Right? So, Islam to Sister Palat El Day, because they put it out there, right? And the reality of the situation is that Moors have to recognize how serious, this is what Noble Trolley brought up. Moors have to realize how serious this is. Even all these Moors that are playing around, call themselves stuff, make up stuff, this is the flag that Noble Trolley brought when that. Come on. Man's literature said, red flag, green 5-point star.
That's it.
Where's all this other stuff coming from? All these other names, all these other, oh no, your nationality is not that. Your nationality is really this because Noble Trolley didn't know what he was talking about, and yeah, they must have didn't get the readings that you're supposed to read every meeting, right? To know that you have no authority unless Noble Drew Ali, which is why I'm bringing up the whole situation, because they didn't push any. She's part of some sovereign paperwork terrorist, whatever, right? They didn't say that she was part of some Moorish cult or something or the other, right?
Weird cult or something.
They didn't say that, whatever they say, she got arrested, tried to claim a house or whatever, and she got arrested for that, and right? They didn't do any of that. Right? How come? Because she connected herself to the Moorish Divine and National Movement, founded by Noble Drew Ali, that he said that once you connect yourself to that, they'll recognize it.
Yeah.
So if they're gonna put it out and they're not gonna call her by the straw name, right? The only time they called her straw name was the beginning. After that, they called her by a free national name the whole time, even at the end. And they didn't do like how they do with Most Def, AKA Most Def and formerly known as and all that type of stuff, like how Moors see that they do on when you go to court or whatever. Oh yeah, Kudro, AKA the whatever. You know what I mean? They didn't pull none of that. Right? So take that and run with it. Because we're talking about Millions of people.
Yeah.
Remember, we don't need them to get it right now. You know what seeds that
Video
that
planted.
video planted?
Yeah.
You know what seeds that, it's not even going to click right now. But as soon as they get in a situation where prenup, marriage, and stuff like that,
People are gonna be remembering that.
oh yeah, it's going to click right then.
Deion Sanders' way.
It's going to click right then. Right?
Deion Sanders had to pay his way.
Right? It's going to click right then. Okay? "207. The Holy Prophet said, if you don't leave here right with me this time, you won't make it back here in human form." Right? For all those people who want to, bash Noble Drew Ali and, talk crap, think that, we got one on them. I can still want the Prophet. Yeah? Well, if you don't leave here right with me this time, you might not make it back in human form. How about digest that? And digest that Noble Drew Ali told the Moors that, we honor all divine prophets, Confucius, Buddha. Okay, all right. That's Buddhist teaching. That's teachings of the Buddha. That's why they're vegetarian. Because you go eat some meat or whatever, that might be your family member from a past life that didn't come back here in human form. That's teachings of the Buddha. Right? That's why Noble Drew Ali said, we honor all divine prophets to get us, get out of the nigger mind state that, we have nothing to do with that or whatever. And you better go embrace some of that stuff because our salvation is there too. And in Confucian stuff, the salvation is there. And when you go to Heru, because he was light of this world and all that, so you know that he was quote unquote prophet in these days and times, right? You go back to his stuff, and then trace him back, and you go to everybody, right? To get a clear perspective of what Noble Drew Ali brought you. Because what did he do? He brought the art of nationalization to get to counter the denationalization that wasn't happening during that time. Because keep in mind, we might play, the slavery and all that type of stuff. There was no slavery. There was no boats brought anybody over here by Europeans. Didn't happen. Couldn't happen. So that's not even, no sense even going there. People believe whatever they want. Truth is, it didn't happen. Everybody who's here has been here. Right? Because Atlantic Ocean is just a river. So don't worry. You know what I mean? We used to jump over that. Not because we can't now means that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're in Africa. Right? So as Moors, again, Noble Drew Ali was specific in what he wanted the Moors to do. He wanted the Moors to do to uplift fallen humanity. Moors didn't do that. So here we are, came back, because Drew Ali himself said, those who are with me today are with me. Right? And those who are against him were always against him. So this is not new people that don't like Noble Drew Ali. These are people from back then who are back again, still hating. Still hating. Right? But, they're not going to leave here right with them. So don't be eating, the stuff. Try be vegetarian because even some dirty Moors
You never know.
who didn't make it back here. And just like how they have, steroid in the meat and that they make stuff happen to people, and whatever stuff that they got in the meat make stuff happen to people. Okay, well, that dirty more in the meat, and then you eat it, it will make you do dirty stuff. Because it's that serious. That's why Noble Drew Ali said, I have my remedies and it'll cure you of anything you're not born with. Right? Because the European food here is just poison. So, like, what the hell do you want?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What do you want? Brought you your remedies that you can take. You don't want that. We're going to go over this guy, buy black seed oil, and go over this guy and buy oregano oil and go over these people and buy whatever. When Drew Ali brought our stuff. We brought our teas. But we don't want that tea. We're going to go over here, get this guy's tea and this guy's tea, and get over here his tea and have all these other people's stuff and don't even have his stuff. But again, dirty Moors, because there was, and there will always be Moorish manufacturing company. Right? And you could get the stuff. You just have to get on the hunt. Get on the hunt. Because what these dirty Moors made loyal and faithful Moors do is go in hiding. Because they saw what they did to the Prophet. And they're like, forget that. You guys aren't assassinating me. Right? You guys are not assassinating me. So I'm going to just take this, go in underground right here,
Sure.
because I can't trust anybody.
Yeah.
If you guys killed the Prophet, then what the hell is this? Right? You know what I mean? But the reality is that, once again, Noble Drew Ali told the Moors, new Moors are going to come, their eyes wide open, seeing and knowing, and they're going to carry out the law and take all these old Moors and seat them in the back. Right? And that's what people have to start doing. Right? Right? Like, I don't, like, it's like, don't say Cujo said, right? But everybody out there who says that they're, Moorish American, right, and can't find a temple in their area, and you know what I mean, no Moors where I live,
maybe
and
there's no Moorish community or
right,
something.
and stuff like that. What you need to be doing is calling up these people who call themselves Grand Major or whatever, right? If they're the people who are supposed to be, the headquarters of the Moorish movement, then call those people.
Yeah, see what's up.
And see what's up. How come there's no temple in Colorado? How come there's no temple in Texas? How come there's no temple in Idaho? How come there's no temple in whatever?
Wherever.
How come there is a temple in whatever, and when I went there, these guys running church? And you guys aren't doing nothing about these guys running church. When Noble Drew Ali said, this is civics. This is humanitarian. But they're in there running church. With fezzes on. And then people are, right? Denationalized mindset. People are in there, chilling. Like that's the position. Like that's the vibe. This is about activity. You know what I mean? And like we said before, activity doesn't mean you have to shut down a court or you have to sue some police because they violated you, or you have to crumple up your plates that they gave you and just put some cardboard plates on and just say, oh, forget these guys and just go do it. You know what I mean? Right? Activity is uplifting fallen humanity. Telling somebody who doesn't know. Because that's what has to be done. You know what I mean? And just to say their name again, thanks TMZ, because we got a lot of hits because people saw your stuff. Everybody wants to know what's up.
Everyone wants to know what's up more.
What's
What
up?
is this about?
I seen you guys on thing. Oh yeah, you seen us, huh? You gonna proclaim your nationality or you just seen us? You know what I mean? You don't recognize that you see it yourself? You know what I mean? That this is people's stuff, right? You know? So these denationalizers are, huh? Yeah, there's a little orange juice container with our water in there.
Take it or?
Yeah. Um, now, Islam to think tank bay. Think tank bay, yeah. Because think tank bay is for the Moorish movement.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And you might just ask him something and you send your email with 50 stuff. Right? So I asked him something today and he sent me all this stuff. You know what I mean? So think tank bay, right? So citizenship and nationality. And this is just stuff, you know, on the line, you know, just
find it.
right? Oh, another thing I had to look up too. See if you find Polity.
Polity?
Yeah. In its narrowest definition, citizenship describes the legal relationship between the individual and the polity. This relation can, in principle, assume many forms, in good part depending on the definition of the polity. In Europe, this definition of the polity was originally the city, both in ancient and in medieval times. But the configuration of a polity reached its most developed form in the national state, making it eventually a dominant form worldwide. Right? So when we put this next to Noble Drew Ali, right, we recognize that he's connecting us to a concept that's worldwide, that everybody knows about. It's not just, you know, those group of guys over there that say they're Moors and, you know, they have whatever that they have. So, you know, whatever. Right? That's a fraud. If they're not saying that they're the nationality that Noble Drew Ali resurrected in the Americas, right? That we told y'all, right, about the Muslim Journal and them letting you know that Noble Drew Ali is the redeemer, the resurrector of Islam in America, right? Not that he brought it, but he resurrected it, right? And individuals are backing away from him when they should be embracing him just like they embraced Ivan Van Sertima and Dr. Ben, John Henrik Clark, Chancellor Williams, whoever, Wayne Chandler, Bobby Hemmett, whoever, Taj Tariq Bey, like whoever they you got it?
Yeah, it's what
Nothing,
it's
the same thing
it
there?
just says the form of government, civil constitution.
All right. So form of government, civil constitution, right? So all these individuals, just like they back him, they back them, they should back the prophet. Just because, you know what I mean? He's before them. Why would you rep him? He's before them,
For sure.
right? It is the evolution of polities along the lines of state formation that gave citizenship in the West its full institutionalized and formalized character, and that made nationality a key component of citizenship. So a key component of citizenship is nationality, as we know, right? Okay. And this is why we have to uplift fallen humanity, because these people think that, you know, they could be citizens of something. They think that they can be citizens of something other than what their nationality is, right? And be accepted, which is where's the thing with our friend there?
Oh, yeah,
Right?
okay.
Mr. Chin, right? Everybody knows. Remember, polity change is most developed form in the national state, making it eventually a dominant form worldwide. It is the evolution of polities along the lines of state formation that gave citizenship in the West its full institutionalized and formalized character, and that made nationality a key component of citizenship. Today, the terms citizenship and nationality both refer to the national state. In a technical legal sense, while essentially the same concept, each term reflects a different legal framework. Both, both identify the legal status of an individual in terms of state membership, right?
What's that from?
Hmm?
What's that from?
This is some PDF book. I can't even remember
Yeah,
the name of
but
it.
state membership is not what we're about, right?
No, well, state membership is what we're about, because when you go back to Noble Drew Ali again, right, and him saying that we're members, right?
Oh, I mean, versus being non-members, is what you're saying.
Well,
Because
depends on what you're a member of.
No, but what I'm saying is that I thought that we had, at least some of at least the line that I thought we were on was that the state was the state of New Jersey, or the state of thing, which had to do with the sort of colonizers making the Commonwealth the state.
Yeah.
So therefore, being part of the state would be something that you wouldn't want to be.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Depends on
the form
the state. Yeah. Depends on the state.
A live state
or a dead state.
Yeah.
Right? So Noble Drew Ali had a live state
Yeah.
that he made Moore's member with us.
Yeah.
All members must proclaim their nationality,
Part of the estate.
which would be part of the estate. Right? International law affirms that each state may determine who will be considered a citizen of that state. Again, which is why Noble Drew Ali specifically put all faithful Moors, all loyal Moors, all true Moors. That's the consideration, or that's what has to be considered in order for someone to be a state or a citizen or a member of the Moorish state. Right? Which the temple is the regency for that area. Right? So there was an interview with Mr. Chang. I don't know if anybody heard about this, but let's put it out there just because everybody knows that, yeah, everybody knows that calling ourselves anything but Moors is a fraud. Everybody knows. Okay? And I don't know how old this is, but whether it's old or whether it's modern or new, yeah. And the cup that's off. Whether it's old or new, the fact that they have this perspective, right, means that we got some stuff. We need to start uplifting fallen humanity, because people have already cut them off, or cut us off, if we claim to be some fiction.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
Asian interviewer, can you address their concerns, Mr. Chang? The concerns of black people? Yes, I can. The fact is that we all live under a system of white supremacy. We Asian people look back at our long history of conflict with the European. We observe their strategies and develop our own, in response and in kind. There is no need for loud mass movements on our part, because we intend to overtake them in time, through action and personal sacrifice. Asian interviewer, and the black man? Mr. Chang. He does not count into our situation. He is simply here. We do not hate the black man. We just love the Asian man most. Real love, not cliche. We want to see Asian man happy. So we employ him. We eat together. We spend time with each other. We want his kids to be educated, so we invest in our own schools that offer our children the technical abilities to change the world's power structure in our favor. We want to see the Asian man safe, so we purchase and organize our own communities. We want him to remain Asian, so we reduce the outside influence of others' ideologies and cultures. While he fought to sniff behind the white man, the black man has had the opportunity and every right in the world to do the same. But he chooses to indict people like me for not hiring him over my own brothers. For me to do this will be foolish, and that would not be Asian love. In contrast, the black man will fight for the right to be up under everyone else other than other black people, who he should feel the most love for. In our indifference to their situation, if our indifference to their situation makes us racist, then what would you call the black man's indifference to his own situation? Right? Mr. Chang. Right? Denationalize people. Denationalize people. Don't have any respect. They're not respected, they're not appreciated, they're not recognized. Right? So for denationalized people, for somebody denationalized to say, I'm not going to Moors thing because the Moors aren't recognized. Right? That's a fraud. Because you're denationalized. You don't have jurisdiction to talk on the matter. If you're saying black sovereignty,
Yeah.
and you don't have a nationality, you can't, you're out of your jurisdiction.
Yeah.
You can't talk about sovereignty when you're using a label of somebody stateless, which means they have no sovereignty. And this is the game that people fall for.
Yeah.
Because they have a denationalized mindset. So the art of denationalization is presenting denationalization to you and let you jump on it.
Mm-hmm.
That way they never...
Hands clean.
Hands clean.
Hands off.
They didn't put it on, you put it on yourself.
Well, I think I see it, I think you talked about this too, about sort of, once we sort of created this abomination, European, we sort of fell into our own spell.
Right.
I had a moment there where I started to think that some of this was sort of like, being put into a maze, the maze that we made, forgetting the way out.
Yeah.
In an almost, but in a what you would call forgetting the way out in a conscious way.
Yeah.
Right? It's there. Everyone knows. Everyone can see the way out of this. The way out of this would be to come together. Even as blacks, we can't come together.
Right.
Right? So that alone shows that there's a problem.
Right.
Right? Let alone then going to the next step of having a nationality. So, I mean, part of me thinks that maybe it's the sorcery. The other part understands that really it is the cooperation in it, which is what you've been getting to. Which is, I'm going to present this. Maybe I'm going to put a few sweets on the top of it.
Yeah.
A little bit of sugar.
But still doo-doo.
But everyone's running over there, stepping in it and calling it fine. And then when you come to take them out of it, they're looking to do harm to you. Right. So, I mean,
so it's dangerous out there.
Yeah. I mean, I think we have...
Dangerous.
You know?
I don't know. I mean, all we can continue to do is to.
Uplift all of humanity.
But I also thought,
Right.
I also had another thought over these last couple of days too, that maybe when we look at this as a timeline, right? The prophet came at a certain time.
Right.
There were certain people that were there. Now, if we look at the theory that none of us are new souls, then possibly the generations, when we look at why stuff wasn't done, and the generational gap between when we are here, let's say our parents, and our parents' parents, I think to myself that maybe some of those people who came back around, you know, let's say it's like a hopscotch thing, right?
Yeah.
So we were there
Yeah.
with the prophet,
Right.
but then the next for whatever reason, we spent 30 or 40 years maybe
Right.
in the soul plane, right? But then the generations that were in between us, like maybe our parents and our parents' parents, who
Right.
should have been doing the work, they were like, maybe they were the sheep,
Right.
you know? Unfortunately, right? They just weren't the
Right.
strong ones,
Yeah.
right? And that's why all of this, when you look at all the timelines and all of the prophecies he made, well, 50 years from now, you'll barely know what it was. And
Right.
if you're not careful, 100.
Yeah.
How come we're sitting right on that
Right.
100
On
year
that 100 years,
on
right.
that 100-year date, right?
Exactly.
How come we're sitting on that 101 date? How come
Right.
we're sitting on certain things? So that's where I see the mathematics and the numerology behind this, and start wondering about, you know, this sort of ties in. As I said, I'm still out. The jury's still out on Rick Smith, but I just wonder about the connection between the physical part and the spiritual part,
Yeah.
and how that connects with us and who's doing the work. Why hasn't this work been done
Right.
beforehand? I mean, I'll talk to you after class about some of this stuff. But how come we're still having problems with this nationality? This should be
Yeah.
like
it should
even
be
like this Deion
done.
Sanders, this
Yeah.
Deion Sanders queen or sister. It should just be like pro forma.
Right.
She should just say her thing, and then all of a sudden everything, like we already talked about
Yeah,
this, right?
yeah.
That we should already have our consular court set up where she
Right.
would just say, "I'm out of here." Right? People can still decide to be slaves if they want. It would
Right.
still be open, right?
Exactly.
You want to be slave to master,
Go
go
ahead, yeah,
ahead.
go ahead, yeah.
Right? But the option to go to the other side should be there without any of this
Yeah.
garbage.
Hoopla.
You too.
Yeah.
You should. It's like I think Tom said. You're dealing still with the appetizer.
Yeah.
We should be on to lunch
Yeah, yeah. we
and
should be
dinner,
at the dinner
right?
Yeah.
Or dessert.
Yeah. Matter of
Right?
fact, yeah. Dessert.
At this point, right? That what you're talking about, the 100 years, right? Because you keep making reference to the work not having been done before us, right?
Right. You know, and camelback in that, the people today have to be the ones to do that.
Well, that's why I mean.
Like they have to be the ones. Like it's not gonna if you know it's like we're saying with the school, right? If somebody says, hey, we should have a more school, all right, go build it.
No, 100%. No, I realize that I think
Right.
that we are the ones finally who have come back around, but I was trying to understand why, because remember, lots of times I've had discussions with you, and you would say to me, well, this is because these other Moors didn't do what they do.
Right.
And my response to that was starting to be, well, we still have to do something. That's
Yeah.
where
Right.
you're on.
Right.
But I start to wonder, why haven't these other people, like, what was it? Was it the chemicals in the water? Was it the thing? Because I now start looking back at my schooling system too,
Yeah.
and start to think, they had us.
Right. Yeah, they've been at us.
They had us
Yeah.
way back then.
Right.
I mean, it's by the miracle of Allah
Yeah.
and the Prophet that
Yeah,
we
that
are
we
actually
woke
here,
up.
that we're here. That's,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, when we had that conversation yesterday night about that,
Right.
where we were sort of close when we did, like that had to be like
Yeah, yeah.
the ethers just
Right.
putting stuff in, and your cousin too. So come
Right.
on.
Right. And even all that just goes back to this is a divine and national movement.
Well, that's what I was going
You know what I
to
mean?
punch to too. That really, you see, all of us seem to be focused on the national. Well, no, the national seems to be the bigger part
Right,
for us
right.
because it's the lower. What is it? The higher and the lower. It's
Right,
the
right.
lower self,
Yeah.
which seems to be what we're all
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
because I need to eat.
Right.
When really, I'm needing to eat spiritual
Yeah.
food.
Right. Right.
Right. That's. But we're still on thinking to
On
eat the
thinking the
physical
physical
food,
right.
right?
Yeah.
So, but what I realize is, yet again, every word that these prophets say are said for a specific reason. This is divine,
Mhm.
which means that's first.
Right.
The we got to get on
Get
that
on the divine
first.
first.
The national is the secondary. That's
Right.
that's the dotting the I's and crossing
Yeah.
the T's, right?
And that will manifest.
That has to manifest.
Once you get on the divine part.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Right? Know the truth and the divine truth.
Right.
You know? And like we're saying, if there's divine truth, then there's divine love, there's divine peace, there's divine freedom, and there's divine justice.
Yeah. And they are, and interestingly enough, I think they are hand in hand with the national justice,
Right,
the national
exactly.
truth,
Right.
the national peace.
Exactly. Right. As above, so below.
But I think that our issue is, for the most part, yet again, still it's sort of the side issue to it all, that we still are caught in the spirit, in the physical water,
Yeah.
not the spiritual water,
Right.
right? That most of us are still caught up in like the declaring to me the nationality is the opening up of the divine,
Yeah.
right?
Right, exactly. Exactly. That's the gateway.
That's the gateway.
Yeah.
That's
Because you're not-
because what I realized too was that as much as they say it's the upper self reflecting the lower self, it's also the lower self reflecting the higher self.
Right, exactly.
You got to be on the
On
national
the national,
to then
to
have,
then have
the divine.
the divine. You have to be on the divine to get the national.
Right.
Right? For example, right? For example, when we went to, read this quick fast too. The Holy Prophet Ndrawli said, Chicago is going to be your new Mecca. Right? So when right? Chicago's going to be your new Mecca. So I just want to put that in there because what I was going to say is that when I did the Hajj to Mecca, right?
Yeah.
Chicago,
Yeah.
right? The sheiks that put me through the temple, through the Arab chamber, right? Made the statement that you're already at it, right? Before the chamber.
Being in the exactly.
Right? Because, we studied metaphysics, we studied astrology, we studied, you know what I mean? All these disciplines, you know what I mean? Whatever, you know what I mean? Wicca, occult, whatever. We studied all these things, you know what I'm saying? Right? So, proclaiming my nationality was the missing piece for me to really look at all this metaphysics and all these other things that I do, right, or that I've studied, to look at them from a higher perspective than I was looking at them in the dead state.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like with Moors, when anybody that's a Moor, right, nationalized, right? Nationalized meaning that it's in their mind, it's in their heart, it's in their spirit, it's in their soul, it's in their aura, it's something that they are, right? The first time every Moor put on a fez, something happened, right? And Moors could just ask Moors. The first time you put a fez on, and you realize, you know what I mean, that take it in for a minute. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, I'm wearing a fez or whatever. You know what I mean? Something kicks in. You feel something. You get a, there's a shift that happens with that. You know what I mean? Right? I never did the turban yet, but I'm sure the turban, it's the same thing. You know what I mean? You do those raps or whatever.
Yeah.
Bam, 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 bam. After you go tuck in, something happens.
Something's going on.
Right? Something happens. You know what I mean? Right? This was just R.I.P. to Del Jones. This is Del Jones Black Holocaust 2000. Right? Asa G. Hilliard, in the introduction to Stolen Legacy. Mental bondage is invisible violence. Formal physical slavery has ended in the United States. Mental slavery continues to this present day. This slavery affects the minds of all people And in one way, it is worse than physical slavery alone. That is, the person who is in mental bondage will be self-contained. Not only will that person fail to challenge beliefs and patterns of thought which control him, he will defend and protect those beliefs and patterns of thought virtually with his last dying effort. We are told in the quote-unquote Western world that the highest form of civilization is Western, that this Western civilization is the independent product of Western genius, that the world, with the possible exception of certain valleys in China, India, and Northeast Africa, waited in darkness until Western Europe brought the light, and in some case that the light which Western Europe brought was too advanced for some of the world's people. Right? Point being that that's a mental slave concept, that European is superior, right? Now, with Noble Drew Ali getting us out of this dead state, right? Everything switches around now, right? Everything does a 180. So realize that everything that you've been told, you're looking at from the backside now, right? And by looking at from the backside, you can see, you know, whatever else that you weren't seeing because you're focused on God, right? Formal physical slavery has ended in the United States. Mental slavery continues to this present day. Mental bondage is invisible violence because it's a war crime to be denationalized.
Mm-hmm.
The process of denationalizing somebody is a war crime. International war crime.
You, but you can do it.
But if you do it to yourself,
you can do it to you all day.
Right? You can do it to you all day, every day. And we were so steeped in mental bondage, a prophet had to come to get us out of mental slavery that we had at that time when he came. So if we had that, and this is what you're talking about with the sorcery, that if we had mental bondage from the time that the prophet came, right? And then we're still in mental bondage now still.
You think though that probably now I realize when you make that statement how much worse it must have been
Back then.
to have him have to come. Right now, we are now the residue of that fire.
Right.
Right now, hopefully the embers glowing, starting to light other things on fire. Right.
Right.
But I also think that it ties in with, because I think we had this talk when we were traveling back from the temple that other day, that I think that what happened was when we mixed our DNA in that terrible, terrible experiment, that it brought down our vibrational rate.
Right.
And that has been what has happened. We've continued to fall, and then those ones that we sort of brought in, they took our sciences and then continued to sort of just hold us there.
Right.
Right? But like we talked about, it's really it's a cooperative thing. We've had to agree to be there, right?
Right.
We've had to agree to that. Right? That's the only way we can be there.
Right. And for you know, the people that are considering getting out of a denationalized state into a national state, right? You know, might just pull this up and they realize that, oh damn, I'm in a denational state, what do I do or whatever, right? Study is what you do. Because the process or the art of denationalization is layers. So you have sellouts who just don't care about you. All they want is their check, and they'll do whatever it is that they have to do to make sure you don't rise. Right?
Okay, you get your pre-existing condition, which comes from your oppressor.
Right.
Conditioning
you to think a certain way.
Right? You've got maybe a familial situation where members of your family have decided to take the so-called check.
Right.
You then got concept of needing to just live, some concept, right? I
Exactly.
mean, that's where I sense all of this is really, it's in stages.
Right.
It's
It's a process.
It's a terrible
So,
thing, but it's not going to happen
overnight. Right.
And but it really is something that has to come about by a continued effort. The other thing I was realizing too was that studying in itself is something that I think that they have. I'm looking at this. No one has to know the situation, but I'm looking at the youth today and the continual erosion of. And oh, you must see it too. Well, maybe
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
The continual erosion of even the principles of how to learn.
Right. Yeah.
And what to learn.
Yeah.
And how schools, so-called schools these days, are just warehouses.
Right.
To sort of get you to an age where then you're supposed to go out there and work. Now,
Yeah.
if you're sort of somewhat brilliant, then you can maybe go on to the higher learning, but even that's been
Right.
twisted around, and everything still has always gotten, unless you're of the elite, to have to get out there and support yourself.
Right. And comes right back around that people who are in a position of elitism, right, so to speak, they study more science. They're pretending to be Moors. Like, that's what they're exercising. They're exercising Moorish birthright that Moors don't want to exercise.
100%.
Right?
Well, the sciences.
The divine first,
Yeah.
and then once you have the divine, then you can do anything national.
I mean, you even think about the Hebrew too, and those the whole concepts behind that,
Right.
Like that whole segment, that has all been taking our stuff,
Right.
perverting it for them.
Which they have a right to do, because it's fallen humanity, and fallen humanity is going to be raised by the Moors. That's all it's ever been.
Yeah.
Prior to there was no like when we say fallen humanity, we're talking about like these are way later people. Like we were fallen humanity from the universe to the earth plane.
Oh yeah.
They're fallen humanity on a way lower level than we're fallen humanity.
You're talking from us, from the stars to,
Right.
to this
From
plane,
stars to this plane.
and then we're talking about from the highest kingdoms
From the highest
here
kingdom stairs, building pyramids
down
or
to the
whatever,
ghetto
to
souls.
living in metro housing or whatever.
Right.
Right?
And then there, that's what I realized. I had this, it's funny you mentioned that, because I had this concept that it was like, there was this beautiful kingdom that we had, and that we dropped the ball, right? And the slave, or the lower form came and took over, and they're
Yeah.
there, and they're running the show, but
Yeah.
but they can't, because there's certain tools and certain
tools
things that they'll never understand because
Exactly.
it's coded into the DNA, but
Right.
they're still trying to make it work, and
Yeah.
they have been to the point, because I sort of likened it to sort of
Because they're
a
about
ship.
survival.
I likened it to a ship that had all these controls, and they've understood certain parts of it, like
Yeah.
to go
So
forward,
you can only go up, down,
or left
to-
and right.
yeah.
But they don't understand that if they push this button,
Yeah.
we're going to another
you go another
universe.
dimension or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's,
Right.
and I've realized that it can't go any further.
Right.
Because they don't have.
But right, exactly. They can't go any further. That's why they're retro.
Retroactive or
That's why Jordans are coming out again.
Oh, you're
Because
talking
they
about,
can't go any further.
you're
They're
talking about
stunted.
you're talking about the fact that it's circular here because they've only gotten one piece
They
of
could
the.
only. There's nowhere else for them
Yeah.
to go, and then
That's
that's
why
why
you see
everybody
things-
wants the Moors to.
That's why you
because-
see everything falling apart now. But that's why they've also been feeding off of us secretly with everything, but not giving us the credit
the
for
credit for it. Because if they can graft themselves on, just like when they say, just like in this thing when they're
Wow.
talking about,
Wow.
right?
But that's why things have fallen apart now. That's why things are falling apart,
Right.
because it has been able to go no further.
Right.
Because they've stopped at where it's like they got to the page in that book, and it was only that page. Right?
That's the first they could go.
That's as far as they can go
Right.
until we give them the other pages.
Right. We are told in the Western world that the highest form of civilization is Western.
Of course. That's a subtle little
right.
subtle little
That's not
thing.
subtle.
Right.
That's not subtle. That's it.
The highest form of civilization is Western.
People are going to assume that
But it's out of the East.
But
that,
right,
it's out of the East
because
where everything comes.
denationalized mindset, Europe is Western. No, Europe, no, it's not. Europe's in the East. But if they can get people to denationalize themselves, that they're going to read this, just like it says, you know, the minority, whatever, whatever, and everybody goes with it. But then on the other hand, they're going to argue that, you know, our people are the majority. Because you're the majority, why the hell you call yourself a minority?
Simple things like that.
Right? If Europe, right? If Europe is in the East, which is not a continent, by the way, because it's in Asia,
It's part of,
right?
yeah,
Right?
part of Asia.
It's part of Asia.
Blatantly part of Asia.
Blatantly part of Asia, right? And on top of that, Europe was run by the Moors, not pale people. And that's the East. And this says West, and everybody's going to beat up their own birthright. Right? And well, again, you know, honors, you know, Bill Jones dropped some stuff. You know what I mean? Right? But where the issue comes in, that you can't continue to not have a nationality. People can't, it's like when Moors say, well, I tried to tell them and they don't want it. That's good, that's all right. At least you tried to tell them.
Yeah, try to tell them. If you want it, that's up
At
to
least
them.
you tried to tell them. You know what I mean? But remember, you know, we can drop seeds. And they're not going to get it now, but don't worry. When they're facing that sword, they'll get it. Right? And then we'll have, you know, the whole, we need the 16 secretaries again. Right? Denationalization of citizenship, the Turkish experience.
Okay.
And this is by Ayse, Ayse, Kadioglu, Kadioglu, Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences, Salonici University, Turkey. Abstract. Turkism as a political project aiming at the construction of a Turkish national identity was spelled out in 1904. The realization of this project included process of assimilation and exclusion of non-Turkish and non-Muslim quote-unquote others. There was also an attempt on the part of the Republican elite to construct oblivion in the society about the multicultural Ottoman past in order to constitute a Turkish national identity. Hence, Turkish citizenship emerged as membership to a national state defined on the basis of a single religion, Sunni sect of Islam, and single language, Turkish. The increasing visibility of the non-Turkish and non-Muslim identities in the 1990s unleashed a process of denationalization of citizenship. Denationalization of citizenship gained momentum after Turkey's official candidacy in the European Union in 1999. Many reforms were undertaken in the parliament towards the utilization of languages other than Turkish, as well as the practice of multiple religions. These reforms were upheld by the activities of civil societal organizations in order to portray the presence of multicultural identities in Turkey. Unless reversed by a nationalist backlash, these processes point to the denationalization of citizenship in Turkey. Right? So same thing for all the Fez haters, you know. Fez comes from Turks and all this type of stuff, right? Clearly, they tell them, that the Republican elite to construct oblivion in the society about the multicultural Ottoman past. So bury the Moorish history in order to institute a Turkish history.
Yeah.
And then anybody who comes there and says, oh yeah, I'm Ottoman or whatever, sorry,
Yeah.
you're either Turkish or you're a nigger.
Yeah.
Over there. And this is in 1909.
Yeah.
So if that's going on during that time, right? And then Noble Drew Ali's coming and saying, this is the, like when Brother Omar was talking about the timeline, right? Every single thing that we research that has nothing to do with Noble Drew Ali should put next to the timeline of Noble Drew Ali. So you can understand and see the real reason why Noble Drew Ali did what he was doing. Because if in 1904 to 1909 they were doing this thing in Turkey, right? Denationalizing Moors, right? That, were under some sort of subjugation or whatever by these people encroaching. Or these people that sold out and said, we want to get down with the European Union.
Yeah.
And everybody else, if you don't want to be down, then...
Not necessarily someone else. Could have been brother or more.
Right.
Just a dirty.
It's your own brother who's going to sell you.
It's your own brother that's going to sell you. Noble Drew Ali, yeah, good one on that one. Noble Drew Ali told the Moors that too. That your own is going to sell you out. If you're not careful. So, that's why we put out the class, be careful. Right? So, don't let the fool, don't listen to the story of the fool. Right? Because the fool speaks foolish. Simply. And if we're studying, like Noble Drew Ali said, study, 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 and if you finish studying and you ask me what to study, and then, okay, I'll tell you, study yourself. So study is what it's about, right? Once you study, then you would know. And then when you know, you would recognize that if you want something, you better do it. Because everybody sold you out. Everybody sold you out. Everybody sold us out. Especially on our own side. And I was bringing it up because people like to play games about, unity with traders. But if we have a national mindset, right, and other nationalities don't even play with treason and traitorous unconstitutional activity from their own, right? Then it's damn right that we shouldn't be condoning it either, right? Not out of, because, we already know we don't got our own consular courts to take these people to. We don't have our own prisons, right? Like we're talking about, we're trying to rise from the dead level to, living perpendicular. So we're not just going to go kill people, stone people or whatever like that, right? But we're going to recognize who these traitors are. All their names are in FBI papers, sitting there. Everybody knows who they are, but everybody will play with them still. Right? And then in playing with them, their whole job is to divert you from uplifting fallen humanity. It's like the story that Brother Seth and Random talked about, that they went to the temple, they start talking about some stuff, and all of a sudden meeting's done. Right? That they went to this temple, and they start dropping some info, right? That the members probably weren't getting from the leadership of that temple, and they shut the meeting down. Really? Home time.
Dinner time.
You don't gotta go home, but you gotta get the hell out of here, right? Okay? Right? And again, we're not, it's not, you know, if when Moors study and study like how Noble Drew Ali said study, right? All those traders are gonna have bullseyes all over them. You know who they are from 800 million miles away because he looks like a bullseye, right?
Is it a larger?
Yeah. Right. Also, just to, put it out there. Just to put it out there. Um, this is Focus on Africa. Right? Just a little book or whatever. I don't know where this book came from. University of California at San Diego. School book.
Okay.
George Harvey Collegiate.
Mm-hmm.
African nationalism.
Okay.
Right? Chapter.
Yeah.
African nationalism. Who they have for African nationalism? Jomo Kenyatta, shown here waving his symbolic fly whisk, inspired many Kenyans during their struggle for independence.
Okay.
Right?
Let's see what he looks like.
There's
And
Brother
wouldn't you
Jomo.
know, yeah?
Right, there's
Rocking
Brother
some
Jomo.
headgear.
And wouldn't you know, rocking some headwear. Just so you can see, because everybody knows Jomo Kenyatta. Right? Who, so-called blacks in America look to, the continent for inspiration and crap like that when they have a prophet over here. But, it's cool, though, because when they look over there, they're wearing feathers over there. How come? Just because? How come this is about Kenya's independence, right? And they have the fly whisk, right? Which is Kemet. Right? The fly whisk is Kemet. And the fez, right? Showing the connection. Just a little world history book, right? All these Negroes, mad, mad, right? What's even worse, the denationalization of the Moors. The denationalization of the Moors in the Americas was put forth in order for Europeans to claim the empire or the hub of the empire, the capital dominion of the empire, right, of the West. Because remember, when you go check the maps, they got places called Memphis and all these Kemet names over here. So we know that we're in Kemet, right? In order to justify their escheating and inquisition practices, right? They had to displace the Moors, right?
Some way.
In some type of way, because you can't kill them all, because that ain't happening. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna get them to kill themselves. We're gonna get them to forget about Willie Lynch and those stuff that they did, right? The real stuff that they did was get us to not know that we're Moors.
Yeah.
That was the real Willie Lynch.
We're distracted on the.
Right?
other
So,
stuff.
one of the so-called abusers of the rights of black people, right, is the Ku Klux Klan, right? It's gonna read from Who Are the Moorish Americans? Moorish Order of the Round Table. And you can get this at rvbaypublications.com. And organization and principles of the Ku Klux Klan. This organization shall be styled and denominated the Order of the Ku Klux Klan. Creed. We, the Order of the Ku Klux Klan, reverentially acknowledge the majesty and supremacy of the divine being and recognize the goodness and providence of the same. And we recognize our relation to the United States government, the supremacy of the Constitution, the constitutional laws thereof, and the Union States thereunder. Character and objectives of the order. This is an institution of chivalry, humanity, mercy, and patriotism, embodying in its genius and its principles all that is chivalric and patriotic in purpose, its peculiar objectives being: first, to protect the weak, the innocent, and the defenseless from the indignities, wrongs, and outrages of lawless, the violent, and the brutal; to relieve the injured and oppressed; to secure the suffering and unfortunate, and especially the widows and orphans of Confederate soldiers. Second, to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States and all laws passed in conformity thereto, and to protect the states and the people thereof from any invasion from any source whatsoever. And it goes on and talks about their titles and, right, um, you know, just their existence, right? Now, what is it that, because remember, these are Europeans, and they're exercising Moorish birthright because the Moors don't want to do it. So they made up their own divine constitution or whatever like that, right? They put out their characters, their objectives, and all that, right? They dressed up like the Moors, and they went out and they went for stateless people. And anybody who wanted to play that they were denationalized or play stateless or whatever like that, right? They're coming for you. Okay? No, not justifying anything what they did or nothing like that. But the principles that they're standing on is Moorish birthright. So if some European could take Moorish birthright, right, and exercise it in a fashion, right, to protect the weak, the innocent, and the defenseless, right, from the indignities, wrongs, and outrages of the lawless, right? Lawless, right? Outlaw, ruthless, not having roof, not being connected to roof, meaning that you're being somebody who you're not, right? To relieve the injured and oppressed, to secure the suffering and unfortunate, and especially the widows and orphans of Confederate soldiers, right? Somewhere, right? They are using our authority, or they were using our authority. Kind of still are using our authority, but it's more stuff that they're using, right? To do all this madness. So it's something that's acknowledged. When people, is it acknowledged? What do you mean is it acknowledged? Clans using it, right? Jomo Kenyatta using it. Haile Selassie used it. Everybody, Europeans using it, Turks using it to come denationalize Moors, right? So they just like the colonizer Inquisitionist European, right? Graft themselves onto Moorish history, right? the Turks graft themselves onto Ottoman history, which is Moorish history. And that's just in those two places, right? And like we talked to Mr. Chang, you know, that he knows about ancient stuff when the Europeans were coming over there, right? Their long history they have with these Europeans coming there, right? You know what I mean? Drew Ali brought us the remedy for all these ills that we were going through, right? And specifically put them in the hands of the Moors. So the information is there. All you need is your 101 questionnaire, right? Holy Quran of the Moor Science Temple, Moorish literature, right? And oral statements to get a full grasp of what Noble Drew Ali brought, because once you have those things, that's going to lead you to other things that he presented. Not just lead you to other things because, oh yeah, you know, this sounds interesting. He said specific things in order to stimulate our mind frame, to stimulate our brain activity, to get us to, oh, damn, I never knew that before, you know, and then you research further, because I never knew that before. And you realize that it's all about being a student all the time, even as a master.
Yeah.
A master is a student, right? You have something there?
No, it was the red book, and it was just talking about the fool who looked into the pebble, and pick up the pebbles, see the pebbles as if they were. I just thought that was because you were talking about the fools, right?
Yeah.
I thought that was. I think you were saying. What was it? What was the reference we were making? That people were. Wasn't it they're playing the fools but staying?
Listening to the fool.
Yeah, listening to the fool. Is that what it was?
A few actual facts for Moors, a people in adversity, right? When the word Christian is used by Europeans in politics, literature, and history, it is definitely and only in reference to the Anglo-Saxon political and social economic system, European peoples and their institutions. Christendom is void of benefit of any Oriental people or their political, social, and economic conditions or institutions. Do not get emotional for lack of knowledge or take these facts personal. They are presented for your objective observation and benefit. Right? So, objectively, observing our condition without getting emotional or personal would bring us out of the denationalized mindset, right? That we were in, that we are in still today. Okay? Concerning the Americas, a number one priority political position of all European colonists and their descendants is to speak to Moors only in terms of displacement. Displacement is a cardinal rule when referring to their relationships with or conversing with the Moors, especially those labeled as blacks and Negroes. This is a necessary tool of psychological warfare in the usurpation of the land and the Moors' sovereignty. They teach their agents among the Moors to do the same, issuing letters and degrees to them as political, social, and economic incentives. A most troubling and effective political manipulation tactic has been used against the subjugated Moors in the Americas. That topic is the placement of quote-unquote blacks and Negroes in token political positions with pseudo-government powers, which are designed to trick, oppress, tax, and maintain suppression among their own people. These range in the areas of municipal police operating in a non-sovereign capacity, judges and politicians operating in a non-sovereign capacity, and the sub-government agents and agencies, all with no true sovereign authority derived from the people they govern. This gives the appearance of the existence of mutuality and agreed sovereign relinquishment of rule and authority from the Negroes, blacks, who are unqualified, having no self-authority, to the otherwise fake, fraudulent, usurpative, and de facto union of state, society, corporation, governments, and union citizenry. This color of law position is deceptively and is deceptively used to govern, steal, and claim jurisdiction over indigenous Moorish people's birthright, sovereignty, affairs, and land. We'll just do that one again, just because. A most troubling and effective political manipulation tactic has been used against the subjugated Moors in the Americas. That tactic is the placement of quote-unquote blacks and Negroes in token political positions with pseudo-government powers, which are designed to trick, oppress, tax, and maintain suppression among their own people. These range in the areas of municipal police operating in a non-sovereign capacity, judges and politicians operating in a non-sovereign capacity, and the sub-government agents and agencies, all with no true sovereign authority derived from the people they govern. This gives the appearance of the existence of mutuality and agreed sovereign relinquishment of rule and authority from the Negroes, blacks, who are unqualified, having no self-authority, to the otherwise fake, fraudulent, usurpative, and de facto union state, society, corporation, governments, and union citizenry. This color of law position is deceptively used to govern, steal, and claim jurisdiction over indigenous Moorish people's birthrights, sovereignty, affairs, and land. So if you're not using your nationality and birthrights, then somebody else guaranteed is going to take it and use it against you. Guaranteed. Just because they're not from here, and if worse comes to worse, they could jump on plane, boat, whatever, go back home. Right? You know, that's like the chase when you have the fat guy and you just hop the fence and make it easy. You know what I mean? To get away. You know?
Yeah, trust me.
Right?
You planned it out.
We're the fat guy right now. You know?
Not catching no one.
Not catching no one. Everybody's winning the quote unquote race game. And we can't win yet. I wonder why. Right? And never go to the fact that, hey, everybody else running as nationality. They have an actual real flag on them that you can go to any other nation, show it, and they'll tell you, oh yeah, that's the flag of whatever. Right? Resolution of the Union States slave and ward problems. Right? So this is for the Moors who are ready, able, and willing. Right? Resolution. So it's talking about, you know, what do we do and whatever like that. How do we, whatever?
Yeah.
Okay. The obvious answer to the political, economic, and social problems in the Union of States, colorable jurisdictions, is the return of the Moorish nation's national names, birthrights, and sovereign rights to self-government. This must include national land rights, with supports and protections of the international body politic of the extended nations. There must be mass re-education of Moors, labeled as blacks, to self-knowledge, birthrights, proper government, and zodiac constitutional law. The indigenous Moors have been held to servitude, unconscionable contracts, and forced into the union of states, fraudulent wardship, and nom de guerre political status. To assist in the remedy, internationally sanctioned world courts, mutually assembled, having multinational enforcement powers, may be established to observe, supervise, and assist the Moorish nation in the necessary logistics related to the sorely needed transition to a de jure law in Northwest Al-Marak, North America. Mass re-education into self-knowledge must be the focus of the oppressed Moors of Northwest Territories. The purging of a de facto government and colorable law must be the order of the day. This by mandate of nature's law, the Moorish order of the Great Seal, justice, and all civilized and lawful national governments. The social, economic, and political nigger industry problem can and will only be solved by releasing the secret history of the North Gate and activating the de jure, conscious, and uncompromised representative government of the sovereign Moorish nation of Northwest Amexem, Africa, America. Right? So when we, the Moors, take the position of exercising, right? And it's not going to be overnight.
Yeah.
That's why Ali himself, right, told the Moors that if you doubt that I am a prophet, watch my prophecies. If you doubt that I'm a prophet, watch my prophecies. Right? And he also told the Moors that he came for the children and the unborn. Because if you teach children, they're going to get this before the adults.
Yeah.
Simple. If you teach children, they're going to get this before the adults.
Yeah, they got it. They understand.
Right? But children aren't stupid. Children are very intelligent.
So I found the passage. I was trying to remember the reference now with the fool. What were we saying about people following the fool?
Yeah.
What was that again? What was that a reference to?
People listening to these jokers.
Okay, so I have the whole instructions of unity. The gifts of the understanding are the treasures of Allah. He appointed to everyone his portion of what measure seemeth good unto himself. Hath he endowed thee with wisdom? Hath he enlightened thy mind with the knowledge of truths? Communicated to the ignorant for their instruction. Communicated to the ignorant for their instruction. Communicated to the wise for thine own improvement. True wisdom is less presuming than folly. The wise man doubteth often and changeth his mind. The fool is obstinate and doubteth not. He knoweth all things but his own ignorance. The pride of the emptiness is an abomination, and to talk much is the foolishness of folly. Nevertheless, it is the part of wisdom to hear patience, their impertinence, and to pity their absurdity. Yet be not puffed up in thine own conceit, neither boast of superior understanding. The clearest human knowledge is but blindness and folly. The wise man feeleth his imperfection and is humble. He laboreth in vain for his own approbation. But the fool peepeth in the shallow stream of his own mind, and is pleased with the pebbles which he seeth at the bottom. This is the part that I thought. He bringeth them up, and showeth them as pearls, and with the applause of his brethren delighteth himself. He boasteth of attainments and things that are of no worth, but where it is shame to be ignorant, there he hath no understanding. Even in the path of wisdom he toileth after folly. And shame and disappointment are the reward of his labor. But the wise man cultivates his mind with knowledge. The improvements of the arts is his delight, and the utility to the public crowneth with honor. Nevertheless, the attainment of virtue he accounteth as the highest learning, and the science of happiness is the study of his life. So I don't know, I sort of saw that as being connected with the fool who seems to sort of be stuck in some angle, right? Which, let's call it black nationality, right?
Right. So again, reversing the denationalization is going to happen with study, right? And what you want to do, right, really and truly, unless it's like, what I mean, Rick Smith, Peter Moon, William Cooper,
Mhm.
you see all these Europeans talk about sovereignty and all this type of stuff. Don't even go there, right? Because ain't nothing there for you, right? As Asiatics, right? Secondly, make sure you support your own. So, we're talking about the denationalization process, and we have to put up Moors in America. Make sure you go get that. Just Google it; it'll come up. Khalifa Media, right? Moors in America.
Is that the book
Okay,
that?
yeah, right. And you go to page 125. Ancient name after 1865. Okay, so ancient name, Sea of Galilee. Name after 1865, Lake Erie.
Hmm.
Right?
So, name after
After 1865.
after 1865, and before that,
Sea of Galilee. Okay? Bethlehem, Pittsburgh. England, New Jersey, Virginia, and Delaware. McGill, Morocco, Virginia. Spain, New Mexico, Arkansas, Arizona, Wyoming, and Utah. Ali Bumar, Bumar, Alabama. Moabite, Mobile. House of Canaan, Baltimore, Maryland. Russian, South Dakota. France, Missouri. Paris, St. Louis. China, North Dakota. Muslim prison, island of Albine. Egypt, Ohio River to the south. France, East Coast. Was known by Southeast Asia by the Moors, modern Africa. Mount Calvary, Capitol Hill. Magna Carta Hall, Constitutional Hall. The knowledge is in reserve, Western Reserve. Ancient Scotland, Nova Scotia. Germany, New York State. England, Virginia. Spain and Japan, California. Spain, Montana. Egypt, Alabama. Algeria, Louisiana. Libya, Ohio, Cleveland. Antioch, Sandusky. Mecca, Chicago. Medina, Detroit. Rome, Venezuela. Europe, Argentina. That one is interesting. Europe, Argentina,
Which is where they were supposed to be
which is where they were originally from.
Which is where you see a lot of these sometimes with these Germans, they're all running.
They're always going back to Argentina. Right? Niagara Falls implies 50,000 Moorish women who were beheaded. Several wars in the Bible and in history occurred in North America. Muslim legacy in early Americas. West Africans, Moors, and Amerindians. Jose V. Pimenta Bay. Introduction, Barry Fell. Google that, Barry Fell. Alexander von Wutenow. Alexander von Von Wuthenau. DeLacy O'Leary. Delacy O''Leary. Clyde Ahmed Winters. That's just some names for you to just check out. Right? So it's that time. Remember as well, you can go to google.com/site/Canaanland Media. Make sure you go to Canaanland Media and look out for the new book coming. Noble Drew Ali, Plenipotentiaries, and the Negro Black Colored Addiction. That's a new one I'm coming out with. Today, got Moors in America, and this was compiled by Moors, so make sure you support. Who are the Moorish Americans? Moors Order of the Round Table, rvbaypublications.com, compiled by Moors. The War Correspondent, Del Jones, Black Holocaust, 2000. Focus on Africa. And if you wanna email of all the PDFs or whatever that I got from Think Tank Bay, send an email, canaanlandguide@gmail.com. And also too, if you got questions or whatever, you can send them there. What else is there? Oh, this Sunday, we got the Skype with Seton Rabe. Moors on Move. Moors on the Move. Talking about the Move organization in Philadelphia, but dealing with it from a Moorish perspective.
Okay.
And that's gonna be coming. It's gonna be coming this Sunday.
I've
Yeah.
done some research about the move.
And as well, we're gonna be uploading that Rami Salam Il soon. Is working on some computer glitches right now. And Blog Talk Radio, Moorish Heritage History School, MHHS, Eyes Wide Open, at 9:30. Call-in number 347-945-5899 or blogtalkradio.com MHHS-Eyes Wide Open. That's at 9:30. 347-945-5899. So Islam to all the Moors worldwide. Islam, stay strong. Islam to Sister Pilar El Day for stepping up. You know what I mean? Saying forget them clowns and putting their stuff on the record and putting the word out.
Putting them
You
on
know what I mean?
blast.
Putting them on blast. And you know that you already got the support. Just let the Moors know what's up, because that's a special case right there that Moors need to get on. Stop playing about celebrity crap and all that stuff. There ain't no celebrity. Trust me. Studying more than a lot of these Moors out there.
Yeah, trust me.
Fronting like, they're on something and come join their stuff. Alright? So, Islam to all the Moors. We'll just close out with the prayer. And don't forget Blog Talk Radio. And Islam to Brother Kaba Hayawatha, Kameen, right? Panther Prince. We're repping. 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe.
Allah, the Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth. Peace. Freedom.
And
justice. Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide.
And
my salvation. By night. And by day. Through His holy prophet. Noble Drew Ali. Islam. Moors.